All right, Scott. Anthony Davis to the Hornets? Could you see it?
How does that work?
All right, so hear me out. Charlotte has actually been, despite the fact that they're, I think, 11th place, and we know they haven't made the playoffs in a decade, with all of LaMelo Ball, Con Knippel, and Brandon Miller on the court, since they've been healthy, they're 16 and 11, I believe, with those guys in the lineup. They have the most efficient three-man offense. If you look at like the most used three-man combinations around the league, the only lineups scoring more efficiently than them are Nikola Jokic-led lineups in Denver. So it's basically either you have Nikola Jokic or you put LaMelo Ball, Con Knippel, and Brandon Miller together, and those are the most efficient combinations in the league. There's also an incredible stat that I believe OptaStats put out yesterday. So in January, the Hornets won 6 road games by 15-plus points, all right? Only 2 other teams have done that in 1 month before. The 2002 Lakers, Shaq and Kobe won a championship, and the 2012 Heat, LeBron, Wade, Bosh won a championship. So what the Hornets are doing right now is playing like a contender quietly. Now, we know they're not actually a contender, but you've got that core of like dynamic offensive talent. What would it look like with a defensive anchor like Anthony Davis behind them?
That's fascinating because, presumably in any deal for AD, which I'm sure we'll get into, in a moment, you don't want to touch those 3 guys. Like Charles Lee has those 3 guys playing. Like there's a lot of movement in that offense. Like he's convinced LaMelo Ball to get off the ball a little quicker a lot of times, which has like really led to. I mean, obviously Con Knippel coming in and just being incredible has been like a game changer for them. But Brandon Miller playing really well. A guy that I think is finally looking like that number 2 pick. AD is kind of like, in a perfect world, like kind of the perfect complement to those guys. Like they haven't had a decent big man in, can't even remember who the last one would have been, since Alonzo Mourning. But AD, I think is a perfect fit. I guess my question is just more like, how would you make that work? Because I think this is a team on the rise. And if I'm them, I'm not trying to give up too many of my, you finally have a team that you feel like you're building towards. You don't want to give up too much and ruin it because that's kind of what they've been doing, for the last 20 years.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can get into the parameters of the deal now. Also, first of all, that's Al Jefferson erasure right there.
Oh, how dare I? Yeah, he was an all-star.
Yeah, come on, man.
My bad.
Okay, so the way I've got the deal looking is AD and throwing D'Angelo Russell, and this is for salary matching purposes, so AD and D'Angelo Russell go to Charlotte. Miles Bridges, Colin Sexton, Pat Connaughton, essentially just acting as salary filler. Ryan Kalkbrenner, who a lot of people might not know is actually like a solid young big, good defensive big. And then 2 first-round picks. But here's where it gets interesting, because people might be hearing that and being like, really, Charlotte, you're going to like start mortgaging your future for this version of Anthony Davis? But hear me out. And this is why I think it's so interesting. The 2027 first-round pick that Charlotte would be trading is Dallas's own pick,
That's right.
which the Mavs originally traded to Charlotte for P.J. Washington. It was top 2 protected. So Dallas, a team that is now rebuilding around Cooper Flagg but doesn't have a lot of its own draft capital, recoups one of its own picks so that if they continue to rebuild and next year's another tough year, they don't have to worry about their pick going elsewhere. They can appropriately tank next year, do it responsibly, and know that it will actually benefit them. Then I've got Charlotte giving up a 2029 first rounder, but again, it's not Charlotte's own pick. It's the worst of Utah's, Cleveland's, or Minnesota. So the way I see this deal shaking out is that Charlotte's giving up 2 first-round picks, but neither of them are their own picks outright. Dallas is recouping their own pick in 2027 and adding whatever first-rounder later on. It's not breathtaking, but it's something. They can still sell it as 2 firsts. Kalkbrenner is like a solid young big. They're not going to get the value for AD that is going to make the Luka trade look any better. And they have to understand that and get over that. But they can put this saga behind them, get a couple firsts, get a young big, get off like AD and just move forward and start building around Cooper Flagg in a more responsible way going forward, in a more appropriate way. And for the Hornets, to me, this is like the perfect kind of move that a team like this can make where you're not really disrupting what you're building because LaMelo Ball, like, listen, I've never been the type that's going to believe in a LaMelo Ball-led squad, and I'm not sure I do yet. But facts are facts. They're playing very well. He has gotten better. You mentioned getting off the ball a bit more. I think he's better around the edges just in terms of, like, the effort's more consistent. The defensive, it's not there, but it's better than what it was. He's diving for balls. Like, there's a level of competitiveness there with him that I haven't seen before. If you can keep your 3 core guys in Ball, Knippel, and Miller, You can keep all of your own picks. They're not trading any of their own picks here. So you can make a run at this with AD. If you add AD, even semi-healthy to what they've been doing right now, if they can squeak into the play-in, in the East, like, you've got a shot to make some noise. And then if they still have them next year for at least a full year, if you have a full season with those three young guys and AD in the East, like, I'm not saying it would happen, but they can talk themselves into finals contention. This is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 10 years and has never appeared in even a conference finals. If you can go get an AD that seems to complete your team in a way, gives them a defensive anchor, and you can do it without giving up any of your core pieces, any of your first rounders, worst case, he walks in a year and a half, or you don't want to pay him the extension he wants, or whatever it is. Maybe he picks up his player option, he plays for 2.5 years, and then he's gone. Then you're still building forward with LaMelo and Knipple and Miller and all your picks. And the last thing before I see the mic to you is, the thing is, LaMelo's on a 25% max. Miller and Knipple are still on their rookie scale deals and early in them. So, like, they're uniquely equipped to be able to absorb AD's cap hit without it necessarily sending them into apron hell.
Yeah, that last point is an interesting point. We sort of talked about this in the Spurs aspect of thing, where you kind of do, under this new apron world, have to strike while the iron is hot, while you've got guys on rookie scale contracts, because we've seen how very quickly you can go from having a bunch of guys on rookie scale contracts to being, totally capped out. I think this trade is so fascinating because, even just looking at Charlotte as a team, they're in such an interesting spot. They have honestly been pretty bad for a very long time, basically since the Bobcat era. They've had maybe a couple decent Hornet eras. And now they're finally good. They've got a good coach. They've got good young players that are developing. But you're also kind of in this weird spot where you're like, okay, like, we got something Brandon Miller. Knupple's great. Like, what is Ball our guy? So this trade for Anthony Davis is interesting because it kind of lets you, if you're the Hornets, get a look and see. Like, let's see what these guys are like when the games kind of matter. Because you make this trade, you're sending a message to your team, like, we're competing for, a playoff spot. We're trying to be as good as we can possibly be, sort of in the short term. And I think that's fascinating because I think you'll learn a lot about your squad if you bring in AD. My question is more just, what direction does Charlotte want to go in? Are they happy to just leave it? Are you going to see them trade guys like, because Sexton's a good example. You've got him in this deal. He's a guy that they could use to trade to get second-round picks and, cut salary, because I think that's a direction they're considering. Or do you use it to maximize it and go out and get a guy like AD? I think it's very fascinating. You've sold me on it. Like, if I'm Charlotte, I could see them making that deal. If I'm Dallas, I've never seen a trade offer for Dallas where I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah. This feels good. But, like, it doesn't feel great. I'm not going to getting your pick back is huge. However, if you're trading Anthony Davis and the biggest thing you could say is you got your own pick back,
and Ryan Kalkbrenner,
pretty rough, dude,
Yeah.
But, like, that's the reality. I don't know. It's very fascinating from both aspects, I think.
The other thing, too, is you can, like, trade for AD, sit him down since he's hurt anyway, still get a good pick this year in the top one, maybe get some lottery luck, and then add, like, a fourth young stud, have AD next year. Like, you have options. I know anyone watching this is going to think it's absolutely batshit crazy. One, because you might not even know the Charlotte Hornets exist, depending on your level of fandom in the NBA. Two, to envision Anthony Davis there. But I'm just saying, don't rule it out. Don't rule it out.
And, like, they're good. Like, they're a good team. Like, they're playing really well right now.
It's basically 2002 Lakers, 2012 Heat,
exactly.
and the 2026 Hornets are the best teams we've ever seen.
We got to get that up on the shop together. Yeah. Start bench cut. 02 Lakers. 2026 Charlotte Hornets. I think not to sell them short, though. But that is another interesting aspect. I like that idea a lot of bringing in AD. You get an adult in the room, hopefully, which I think also, like, this team can use. Yeah, an adult in the room. And, like, you sit them down. You're like, we're running our young guys next year. Because you send a message to the team, next year's the year we're going to compete. Yep. We'll ride this out. We'll give you guys the minutes to evaluate what we have. And then next year, we know going forward, we've got these three guys, if we like them, plus a draft pick, plus Anthony Davis, we're slotting ourselves, like, that's a, I don't know, dare I say, top 6, 7 team in the East.
They can dream about the finals. I'm not saying they'd get there, but they can dream about it.
And hope, you know what? Hope, you can't put a price on hope, and that's not something
not in Charlotte.
Not
for
a very long time.
Has had an NBA team, like, most of the last 40 years and has never even made it to the conference finals. They need it. There's not a lot of teams that should need AD. The Charlotte Hornets are one of them.
You found one, man.
I think
Credit
they should do it. But you let us know in the comments for those watching. Is this a batshit crazy idea? Should the Hornets actually do it? Does AD actually fit in Charlotte? Hit us up in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.